The music festival thing that they did to Kneecap was also so funny because it's like, oh, dude, what the? It's especially messed up that this music festival would say Free Palestine after what happened at Nova Music Festival. It's like, okay, well, it was like slammed in the ass cheeks of a concentration camp. You're not wrong. Here's another great example. This is a big story from today that I've been meaning to talk about. My boys, the Irish Kneecap group, was played to a massive Glastonbury crowd. It turns out when you tell a IRA group, okay, named after a practice of shooting collaborators of the British occupation in the knee, when you try to silence them because they said Israel, free Palestine, okay, when you try to literally go after them as terrorists, when you actively go after all of their sold out concerts in their European tour and try to shut those concerts down, it turns out that only creates more support for them. Okay? Wow, who would have thought? Especially because their position is literally the overwhelmingly popular position. Now, the BBC weirdly pulled away from the Kneecap live stream, as Coachella had done as well. Okay? Remember, Kneecap did their first week at Coachella, and they were live streamed. That performance was live streamed. Kneecap's tent was changed during the second week, and they didn't live stream it. That's why I went to Coachella and I live streamed their performance, if you recall. Okay? And basically, what ended up happening was the BBC thought best to not show the Kneecap concert. So they instead showed Bob Vylan's concert that was playing at the same time. Well, it turns out there wasn't really a better concert to pull to if you wanted to, if you wanted to show how little support the Free Palestine movement was getting at Glastonbury. This is what happened.
Free, 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 free. Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF. 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 Hell yeah, from the river to the sea, Palestine must be, will be, inshallah, it will be free.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh, they were on before Kneecap on the same stage. So the BBC was showing this, and then they cut the program away from Kneecap. My bad. Brother, it's over. It's got the BBC logo. You got an artist going, have you heard this one? Like, he just goes, yeah, free Palestine, but have you heard this? I gotta run it back. It's got the BBC logo in the corner. Beautiful.
Free, 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 free. Alright, but have you heard this one though? Death, death to the IDF. Death, death to the IDF. Death, death to the IDF.
BBC logo in the corner. Cinema. Kino. Okay? In hell.
Death, death to the IDF. Death, death to the IDF.
I am so disappointed. I'm shaking my head viciously. For those of you at home that are simply listening and not paying close attention, I want to tell you what I'm doing physically right now. I'm going, not good. I'm finger wagging and my head is shaking. I'm going, no. And of course, predictably, Avon and Somerset police were aware of the comments made by the acts on the West Holt stage at Glastonbury Festival this afternoon. Video evidence will be assessed by officers to determine whether any offences may have been committed that would require a criminal investigation. That's right. Kinel. Do you got a license for that? Do you got a license to say death to the IDF, sir? Disavow, not allowed. Calling the Met on Bob Villain from an Iggy Pop gig. Incredible scenes. My sister had the misfortune of seeing him as a support act for Iggy Pop a month ago. He was absolutely vile. She's put a complaint into the Met Police about him, but nothing as of yet. Hysterical. Yeah. But have you heard this one, though? Is so nutty. Is so nutty. Okay. I had not heard that one. I will admit, I've been to many pro-Palestinian rallies. I've spoken at marches. That one I had not heard before. He actually surprised me. When I saw that this morning, I lost my mind. Okay? Yeah, this is a really funny thing that also took place. So here's Mike Isaac from New York Times tech reporter Mike. BBC refused to live stream Kneecap's Glastonbury set, an unprecedented choice. So Helen from Wales took things into her own hands. Congrats to the BBC for managing to Streisand effect this thing into the stratosphere. What ended up happening is Helen from Wales held her phone for an hour to live stream Kneecap. She says she thinks it was important and got 1.7 million likes.
Thank you ever so much from all of us here at Glastonbury.
What? What is happening? What is happening in England? What the f is this? Bro, you got white ladies going, heard you want your country back. Shut the f up. What is going on, brother? Oh, my Lord.
Country back. Ha! Shut the fuck. Heard you want your country back. Shit, me too.
The sun came out and things.
Heard you want your country back. Heard you want your country back. Shut the fuck. Heard you want your country back. Fuck you, cat.
Dude, I can't wait for the liberal optics enjoyers to be like, sir, this is really going to scare a bunch of white supremacists. You shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be saying that. Why would you say that? This is going to make people scared. And it's like, meanwhile, it's making you scared. You also don't agree with this sentiment. You also agree with the white nationalists, and you also want him to shut the f up for that same reason, but you're too embarrassed to admit that that is the actual position that you hold because you don't want to look like the toothless inbred England Defense League freaks, you know? Dude, this demographic is something that I have not ever seen in my life. I didn't know Glastonbury was like that, but this is all like if I saw this crowd, I would be a little bit afraid. You know what I mean? Like this crowd invites, like if I saw this crowd, I would assume falsely that this is like a bunch of gammons, you know? I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. Like this is a U2 crowd, you know what I mean? There's like too many gray hair people in there. It turns out these guys are all crazy. That's sick. Another banger speech. And then
but I have an advice for young people in Europe. I know you want to free Palestine, you want to free Congo, you want to free Sudan.
The youngest son of Afrobeat pioneer and legend Fela Kuti.
You want to free Iran? There's a new one every week. Free Europe. Free Europe from right-wing extremism. Free Europe. Free Europe from racism. Free Europe from imperialism. When you do this job, as soon as you do this job, Gaza will be free, Congo will be free, Sudan will be free, Iran, forget about us, don't worry about them. Free Europe.
Dude, I do think that this level of unprecedented, open, overt anti-militarism, anti-imperialism, anti-Zionist sentiment would not happen if people weren't so pissed off and frustrated with their own country's governments and their lack of interest in even doing right by their own citizens. I will say, it's like it's years and years and years of austerity that have made people go, enough is enough. Why the fuck are you spending all your money killing brown people over there, killing black people over there, instead of, you know, fixing the potholes, fixing public transit, Kuti is not new to this. Look up his father, please. No, I know. Dude, listen, just because I don't listen to music doesn't mean that I don't know about Afrobeat, okay? Chill. Calm down. I'm a cultured individual. People are realizing that the lack of intervention tells people that genocide is necessary and they don't like it. The UK government condemned. The Culture Secretary has spoken to the BBC Director General to seek an urgent explanation about what due diligence is carried out ahead of the Bob Villain performance. Oh no, what the fat law Glastonbury has become a festival of hate today and descended into barbaric chants against Israel and the Jewish people. Glastonbury is a festival I once called home. A dozen or so times I attended. I made magazines on site. I led a team of scores of talented writers and photographers with the NME. I went as part of a team, BBC, as part of Billboard, and as part of Q, as part of Vulture. I grew up there. I am not just heartbroken. I am dismayed. I am disgusted. Emily Avis, you should go to Re'im and see what happened at a music festival in southern Israel on the 7th of October 2023. What happened to you, a Jew X? I'm E. Fartlaw, and this is my take. A lot of yous are making fun of me for my natural, organic Middle Eastern accent. Everyone knows this is how people sound in the Levant. I'm E. Fartlaw. The music festival thing that they did to Kneecap was also so funny because it's like, oh, dude, what the? It's especially messed up that this music festival would say Free Palestine after what happened at Nova Music Festival. It's like, okay, well, it was like slammed in the ass cheeks of a concentration camp. You're not wrong. There were harrowing sights that came out of the Nova Music Festival, but like Palestinians are being in broad daylight. You know what I mean? People are going to eventually say, hey, this is really up. And they're going to say it everywhere. They're not just going to say it on television. They're not going to say it they're going to say it at music festivals too. Okay? Visegrad. Apart from chanting death to the IDF in front of 200,000 people at Glastonbury Festival, Bob Villain also complained about having been forced to work for Zionists at a record label early on in his career. The entire thing was broadcasted live by the BBC to millions of people. It's amazing.
One of the jobs that I did, I worked for a record label. And it's funny because when I worked there, the boss of the record label, we would talk every so often, and he would speak very strongly about his support for Israel. Treading on that line, do you know what I mean? He was treading on that line. And then this letter, or this list of names came out recently of people trying to stop our mate's Kneecap from performing here today. And who do I see on that list of names but that bald-headed cunt I used to work for? So look, we've done it all right? From working in bars to working for Zionists. And if we can do this, I promise you, lot, you can do absolutely anything that you put your mind to. I'm telling you this, all right? Don't give up.
It's really funny. You know what it's like to be like, oh, you can't criticize Israel. October 7 happened. Is literally like saying you can't say America has no right to go to war and invade Iraq because 9/11 happened. Okay? It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Like, the tragedy of 9/11 pales in comparison to the metric ton of violence that we brought about this region unjustifiably. Okay? It is nothing in comparison to what America did in Afghanistan. It is nothing in comparison to what America did in Iraq. Suck my dick. Okay? Except Americans do believe that? No, they don't. No, the average American doesn't believe that. You're wrong. The overwhelming majority of Americans at this point literally understand that especially Iraq, was a major mistake. So no, I don't think that that's even the case. It took 20 years, and many Americans arrived at that position selfishly. Okay? Iraq was not a mistake. It was a lie. No, I know. It was It was death and destruction that was completely unacceptable, both on the virtues of death and destruction in general, but also it was built around a lie. It was deliberate. It was a deliberate attempt. And there are still plenty of Americans who don't care about the death toll, but only cover this or only have the sentiment around how much money was wasted. You know what I mean? But the notion that people are pro-Iraq war is wrong. Donald Trump won against the Iraq war and won against Hillary Clinton. He literally used Hillary Clinton's support for the Iraq war as a major blunder. Trump, that helped Trump win. What the? I don't want to watch this. If this was Glastonbury, it's usually quite corporatized now. So can imagine there's a couple tech handlers and production directors sweating heavily when this guy was on stage. Law. Yeah. So they're chanting death to the IDF. What is this? Look at this crowd. Oh yeah. Here's what Kneecap's crowd looked like. The founder of Glastonbury, Michael Eavis, said, "People that don't agree with the politics of the event can go somewhere else." He added, "People that agree with the politics of the event can pay me 400 quid to get in." I think this is a joke. I don't think he actually said that. Did he actually say that? Irish rapper Mo Farah, an alleged Hezbollah supporter, may soon headline sold-out U.S. tour. Yep. This is also happening in the fall, and I'm very stoked for this. I wonder if America will stop him from doing this. I'm actually worried that Kneecap's sold-out fall tour they're going to potentially try to stop it. Look how desperate Azealia Banks is. Oh, she is so insane. Like, she became this like Palantir advocate. I don't know what happened. I mean, she's always been like a psycho, but recently she's also been like a really annoying and very obviously like an fake advertising doing psycho. Yes, he did actually say it in support of Kneecap. Glastonbury founder says festival critics can go somewhere else after Kneecap furor. Hell yeah. To your point, look how many Americans believed the lies in 2002 compared to now. In 2019, majorities of Americans and U.S. military veterans said the Iraq war was not worth fighting in 2019. In 2002, large majorities of Americans said Iraqi WMD and links to terrorism would justify U.S. military response. There you go. This doesn't exist anymore. Like, this level of popular sentiment in the absence of, this is why I say, in the absence of like a 9/11 style incident, and even then, I don't think they'll ever reach this level of broad public support for American military incursions. But the sad state of affairs is, the scary reality is that they don't need it. The Iranian operation already explained that. The Iranian operation already showed that. Okay? The people's position on this doesn't necessarily matter. But having said that, who knows? I think that as long as there is enough of a fuss made by massive swaths of the population, I think it will make it potentially too difficult for America to engage in these sorts of affairs. It will at least like cause them to. It will at least cause them to recalculate. Anyway, well, I hope Bob Villain is happy. He's not big, he's not clever, and this afternoon his mean words about the IDF have made David Lammy cry. David's still going to have supper tonight, but he's not going to enjoy it quite as much.